TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, the United States prepares a draft resolution calling for a temporary ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and opposing an IDF ground offensive into the town of Rafah. The Palestinian Authority addresses the International Court of Justice in The Hague as deliberations start on the status of Judea, Samaria and Jerusalem, among others. Hostilities along Israel's northern front with Lebanon are seemingly intensifying. The war against the Islamist Hamas and its affiliated terror groups in the Gaza Strip rages on. The last two Hamas battalions, which operate in the southern city of Khan Yunis, have disintegrated as commando forces of the IDF's 98th Division continue to advance on separate locations in the city, mopping up remaining terror cells and further degrading terror infrastructure belonging to Hamas. And while dozens of Hamas terror operatives have been eliminated in the past 24 hours alone, international pressure to end the fighting is seemingly mounting. The Biden administration has proposed a draft resolution to the UN Security Council calling for a temporary ceasefire and opposition to a major IDF ground offensive against Rafah, which is the last bastion of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Nevertheless, an administration official told TV7 on condition of anonymity that the United States would not press to adopt its draft resolution until all efforts to reach a viable hostage release deal have been exhausted. It is important to note that U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken highlighted during a Q&A session at the Munich Security Conference over the weekend that Washington aims to push for a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestinian conflict.
I think there's an extraordinary opportunity before Israel in the months ahead to actually, once and for all, end that cycle. And it's because there's some new facts that didn't exist before when there were efforts to make peace between Israelis and Palestinians, starting with the fact that virtually every Arab country now genuinely wants to integrate Israel into the region, to normalize relations if they haven't already done so, to provide security assurances and commitments so that Israel can feel more safe and more secure.
While the Palestinian Authority unabashedly continues to officially insist that the October 7th massacre was in fact an Israeli conspiracy in which the Jewish state apparently killed its own citizens for the purpose of launching a war on innocent civilians of the Gaza Strip, Washington's top diplomats stressed that there is some sort of Arab initiative by the moderate totalitarian regimes in the region to reform, revitalize, and revamp the Palestinian Authority.
At the same time, there are genuine efforts underway, led by Arab countries, to reform, revitalize, revamp the Palestinian Authority so that it can be more effective in representing the interests of the Palestinian people and could be a better partner for Israel in that future.
Well, Secretary Antony Blinken voiced optimism about the capacity of the Palestinian Authority to reform from its current state of deep corruption and support for terror. The International Court of Justice began a string of hearings yesterday to deliberate the legal status of disputed lands, including the West Bank districts of Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley, including Jerusalem, during the course of which over 50 states will present arguments before the court on the matter in question. And while the 15-judge panel will have roughly 6 months to issue a non-binding advisory opinion to the United Nations General Assembly on, quote, occupation, settlement, and annexation, including measures aimed at altering the demographic composition, character, and status of the holy city of Jerusalem, among others, the Palestinian Authority is evidently convinced that it could force its aspirations upon Israel absent any political process or negotiations.
The only solution consistent with international law is for this illegal occupation to come to an immediate, unconditional, and total end. As you affirmed 20 years ago, the Palestinian people have the right to self-determination. It is an erga omnes right. It is non-negotiable, non-derogable. No occupying power, including Israel, can be granted a perpetual veto over the rights of the people it occupies.
In response to the Palestinian Authority's efforts within international institutions, the Israeli Foreign Ministry in Jerusalem released a statement which reads, quote, "By hurling false accusations and creating a fundamentally distorted reality, the Palestinian Authority is trying to turn a conflict that should be resolved through direct negotiations and without external impositions into a one-sided and improper legal process designed to adopt an extremist and distorted narrative according to which the Palestinians have no responsibilities and Israel has no rights, which has nothing to do with justice." After the 7 October massacre, which shockingly was not mentioned at all by the Palestinians in their deliberations, during which Hamas terrorists slaughtered, executed, murdered, and raped systematically and with premeditation over 1,200 citizens of the State of Israel, those who call for a unilateral Israeli withdrawal from Judea and Samaria without conditions and without negotiations are in fact calling for another massacre of Israeli citizens. The Israeli Foreign Ministry further asserted that the Palestinian leadership's attempt to transform the international system into a political tool to attack Israel harms both global trust in the international legal system and the chances of reaching a resolution of the conflict. For years, the Palestinian leadership has rejected direct negotiations to resolve the conflict, while fostering incitement to terrorism, promoting anti-Semitism, and providing financial incentives to terrorists who murder Jews. All of this was hidden from the court in the distorted and one-sided questions posed to it by the General Assembly, which endeavored to predetermine the results of the proceedings without regard to the basic principles of international law and the legal framework that applies to the conflict. And while calling on the International Court of Justice to refrain from participating in what the Foreign Ministry labeled a media circus, an Israeli decision to reject international diktats will be brought to the Israeli parliament for a vote later this evening.
For 5 months, we have been conducting an unprecedented diplomatic campaign which has enabled our fighters the freedom of action to achieve all the goals of the war. During this time, we have rebuffed considerable international pressure which was intended to stop the war before all of its goals were achieved. But in recent days, we have witnessed a new kind of international pressure, an attempt to unilaterally force upon us the establishment of a Palestinian state that would endanger the existence of the State of Israel. We absolutely reject this. Therefore, I submitted to the government a declaratory decision which specified that Israel would oppose the attempt to unilaterally force upon us the establishment of a Palestinian state. Even though there are various opinions in the government regarding the permanent settlement, this decision was passed unanimously by all members of the government. We are all united on the position that Israel must not surrender to international diktat on such an existential issue. I welcome this, and today I am submitting the agreed-upon decision for Knesset approval. I am certain that it will receive an overwhelming majority. This will make it clear to the world that there is a very broad consensus inside Israel against the international attempt to force upon us a Palestinian state.
Meanwhile, along Israel's northern front, hostilities continue to intensify.
We, this afternoon, located an unmanned aerial vehicle from Hezbollah near Tiberias, which apparently crossed today and crashed near Tiberias. In response to this activity, we attacked weapons depots near Sidon. We will continue to respond with determination and aggressively to the terrorist group Hezbollah.
It is important to underscore that while Hezbollah's cross-border attacks are threatening miscalculation, Israel remains clear-eyed about the chief culprit in the rise of regional hostilities. Over the weekend, during a press conference at the Munich Security Conference, Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz pointed at Iran as the one responsible for all of the latest hostilities.
Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and in the Red Sea, Hamas in Gaza, and the Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria. Iran is the head of the snake. Iran is the biggest terror country in the world. The international community must stop Iran today to prevent war tomorrow. We cannot allow Iran to have nuclear weapons through which it threatens Israel, moderate regimes in the region, and European countries. Iran violates all its commitments regarding nuclear weapons, missile development, and support for terror.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. It is important for us to highlight that TV7 Israel is a donation-based non-profit ministry with all of our productions available free of charge. Therefore, if you're blessed by our daily updates and would like to help us bear the costs, we would deeply appreciate if you'd consider making a donation. You can do so by visiting our website www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, I'd like to encourage you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem, salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Essen wishing you an Erev Mevorach. God willing, we'll see you during our upcoming TV7 Israel updates. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.